Well, thank you everyone for being here at the She Is Me conference. Lisa and I go way back. We really had, we started off being introduced by some of our music friends, and we had a dual connection because we are both survivors of domestic violence. This is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. October is a month where we can all come together and celebrate our survivorship, talk about our pain and how we have progressed. And so today, my topic is One Life to Live. On August 8th, 2008, I escaped my ex-husband due to domestic violence, attempted murder, and violent crime, and I left and never returned. I lived in hiding for 4 long, tedious years, and it was very tumultuous as I had to keep my job in corporate America. I had a very lucrative job in corporate America, and I knew that I needed to keep that job in order to sustain myself financially because I had to hire an attorney to file restraining orders, to file for my divorce, and such. Within that time, what I learned was a lot of people would really, say blanket statements to me. And they would say, oh, why didn't you just leave? Or, why did you stay? And it was always on the victim. It was always on us. And I felt as though, wow, if we can really change that thinking, if we can change that ideology and really proliferate through that social stigma, then we'll be able to rise up in a way that we haven't before. However, I didn't know anyone in the domestic violence community. This was back in 2008. It was a social stigma. Prior to that, I was going to work, covering up my wounds by my ex-husband in order to keep my job in corporate America. It was not only embarrassing, it was not only heart-wrenching, but I said to myself, at what point will this end? And you know what? It never ended. It caused me to become bitter, hurt, angry, rageful, all of those things that come with the gaslighting process. I'll never do it again. I'll never hit you again. I'll never hurt you again. I promise if you'll only stay, I'm going to take my own life if you don't leave me. All of those things I started to think about. And I come from a beautiful family of therapists. My late mother was in psychiatry, and she was the best therapist. I could not find a therapist in Los Angeles, California, where I reside. And so my mother is the one that got me through all of it. Both of my sisters are also therapists in different capacities. And without this family unit, I wouldn't have been able to survive. And so when I thought about speaking today and I thought about sharing my story, I thought, my goodness, we have only one life to live. And I don't think as a survivor that I was thinking about that. And if I had been thinking about that, maybe I would have left sooner. Maybe things would have changed. I don't know. But I think about that often. And I really wanted to speak about that today. I am a professional musician for my own company, Speller Productions, in which me and my husband own. My husband, Marvin, saved my life after I saved my own. He moved me out of hiding after 4 long years, and I am happily married. It has been the best almost 12 years of my life. My husband not only works with me in a partnership for our company, Doubledown Cosmetics, but he is one of the few men that work in domestic violence in Los Angeles. So within our partnership and within our love for one another, we developed a deep love for our community. And when we started Doubledown Cosmetics, we knew that it had to be a clean beauty brand because when I was dealing with all of the emotional and mental abuse and everything had caught up with me, a year after I lived in hiding, I had significant impairments. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what it was. But because I worked at a hospital, I had access to many, many phenomenal physicians. I ended up in the emergency room and I was just crying in a private room because I worked at the hospital. They put me in a private room. And this physician walked in and he said, "How are you doing? I work with you. How's everything outside of work?" And I just started crying. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I felt comfortable with him, but I just started crying. I felt such despair. I felt despondent. I felt like, gosh, when is this going to end? When am I going to be able to move out of hiding? When am I going to be able to rise up in the way that I want to rise up? And so he just looked at me and he grabbed my arm very gently. And he said, "Kristen, are you being abused?" I took a step back. I sat there on the gurney. I didn't even know how he knew, but he knew. And you know what I did? I stayed silent because that's what I knew. I didn't even say anything. And he said, "I know this is happening, or I know it's happened, and I'm going to get you the help that you need." And all I said to him, because we were dealing with significant HIPAA violations at the hospital, which is our protected health information, I asked him, I said, "I know that this may be going against your ethics, but please don't write anything in my medical records." And I told him, "I only have one life to live, and I don't want it ruined by other people knowing." And so when I decided what to say during this conference, I wanted to share that with you because that's going back almost 13 years. And I said to myself, this is what I have to talk about today. Because I don't think as survivors, we always think about this one life. I think we think of, oh, we have 9 lives and we're going to get through it and we're going to rise up and we can rebrand and we can be reborn and we can come through the resistance, right? But at the end of the day, this is all that we have. And when I was living in hiding, and living in hiding for 4 years is a high school career, it's a college career, it's a corporate career when you're starting out, right? Before you ask for promotions and before you build up. And I thought to myself, my goodness, this is such a long time. What am I going to do? How can I rise up? And how can I make this one life count? And so on January, I believe it was January 26, 2009, I wrote my first song, Bruised. My ex-husband was harassing me for 4 hours. He was calling me, he was texting me, he was asking me all of these questions. I was so taxed, my hand started hurting. And when my sister called, she said, "You know what? I'm going to take over from here because I've had enough." And because she did that, I was able to write my first single, Bruised. Bruised is my first commercially released single, and it's about my freedom of domestic violence. It is about my freedom from domestic violence. It is about my freedom to a brand new life. And I wrote this while I was in hiding. I wrote my entire album while I was in hiding. And when I worked through the material of the songs and I worked through what I wanted to say, there were some uplifting songs. I wrote a song called Love Is, and it's about being exactly who I am in that moment. Because when you're in hiding and you're thinking about potentially living on your own without any security measures, it is very difficult to go from here to there. But I started to create a lineation of what I wanted to happen. I started to manifest what it would look like, what it would feel like, what I would have, what I would leave behind, and how I would make this one life count. And that's all I thought about for days. I started journaling. I started writing more music. I started going deeper into my vortex. And I started saying, "Kristen, what do you want for yourself? And what do you want for your community? What do you want to bring to survivors?" Because I said to myself, one day, I'm going to tell my full story. I'm going to be able to share this with the world. And how do I want that shared? So I wrote this album. It's called Misguided Dignity. And I titled that title because I said, my dignity is intact. And just because I've been abused doesn't mean that you're not dignified, and it doesn't mean that you don't have dignity. But what it means is that you had to pivot, and I had to pivot. I had to figure out, okay, what is my dignity worth? What is this one life worth to me? What is this one life going to be worth to my mother? Because there were many sleepless nights. There were many nights where I thought about taking my own life. There were times when I did try to take my own life. And within that, I didn't want my mother to ever bury her child. And so I had to dig deep. I had to do the internal work. And my album helped me do that work. It helped me get free. It helped me realize that although I have my dignity, it was only misguided. And that is okay. Being misguided is okay. Being misinformed is not okay. So I started to do my research on domestic violence. I started to figure out patterns. I started to figure out all of these things that we are attached to. And I was attached to pain. I was attached to anger because that's what I learned. I was attached to the transference of what my ex-husband felt about me. I was attached to the hate that he felt about me and my family. And I had to start to really navigate, and I had to start to pivot, and I had to start to unpack all of those layers. And I had to start building my own layers. I had to start building in a way that I never built before. And you want to know what happened? While I was working my corporate job, none of my employees knew that I was a survivor of domestic violence. I was a hospital department administrator. I had 140 employees, and I had 2 secretaries and 4 managers. I had a very laborious and very, very difficult job while I was in hiding. And I said to myself, okay, I'm living these dualities because half of my staff doesn't know. And I had to tell the executive management what was going on because my ex-husband would show up. He would stalk me. He would come to my job. He had no business coming to my job. And I said, Kristen, if you want to keep this one life, because this is all you have, then you are going to have to use your voice. I didn't have to stay silent, everyone. I did not have to stay silent. But I chose to stay silent because I was embarrassed, because I was under religious affiliation. I was under a congregation who didn't believe me. I was under the religious cloth and the pastors who did not believe me. I was under a microscope. And so I said, well, I'm dealing with the dualities. I'm dealing with this. I'm dealing with that. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write an album that is going to not only get me free, but is going to help other survivors get free. And that's what I did. So my album is called Misguided Dignity. And I talk about in the song about being free. I talk about how he could be so cruel. I talked about, days go by and nights drift away. And so when I thought about that, that days really do go by and the nights do drift away. And that enables you to live this one life because sometimes we feel so stuck. Sometimes we feel like, man, I don't even have a life. I don't even know what it's like to live. But when you can decide that you have this one life to live, your entire being will start to change. And that's all that I started to manifest. I started saying, okay, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to journal. I'm going to write things on mirrors. I'm going to say that I'm worthy. I'm going to write how beautiful I am. I'm going to write that, you know what? This one life counts. This is the only thing that counts. This is the thing that will sustain me. And this is the thing that can sustain a community. And I have to tell you, it was so impactful and it changed my life. And I will have to say, and I will say, that for the past 11 years, I've worked with domestic violence survivors. My husband and I go to court with survivors. And not only that, we started the 2012 Glam UP Program. The Glam UP Program is a program where we provide free makeovers. We provide victim impact statements. We help survivors file restraining order hearings. And I work with litigators in a co-counsel setting to help survivors get justice and help survivors become free. That is the one life that we have to live. And I'm so proud that I am the Chief Branding Officer and the co-founder of Double Down Cosmetics, because we bring clean and organic cosmetics to our entire customer base, but we bring it to our survivor community. When I was laying in that gurney in my hospital, my physician asked me, he said, Kristen, he said, do you know anything about neurological damage related to makeup? I said, I don't. I said, all I know is that I'm not feeling well and I have been sick. And he said to me, he said, have you ever noticed the correlation between makeup and your neurological incapacity, if you will? I said, doctor, I wasn't even thinking that. I am just trying to survive. I have no idea. I can barely get up in the morning. And so he sent me for a paraben study. I didn't even know what parabens were. And it came back inconclusive, but it was enough to get my wheels turning. And so I said to myself, goodness, when we start a beauty brand, because it was always my dream to start a makeup company, and especially after I had wounds on my face and on my neck and on my body, I said, it has to be organic, it has to be clean, it has to be sustainable, because we have to be able to deliver in a way where we are not impairing our future survivors and impairing everything that they're going through. So that's exactly what we did. And I am so proud of Double Down Cosmetics. I'm so proud of what we've done in the community. We have assisted in the past 10 years with over 200 restraining order hearings. We've given over 200 Glam UP makeovers. And in 2019, we extended our Glam UP program to our community partners. And we partnered with A Better Living, and we were able to share the photos of all of our survivors. We had music, we had food, we had fantastic stories of rising up, of survivors who are living in the transitional unhoused space. And we were able to have a day of beauty, a day of queendom, and a day of love. And that's what we bring to the community. I'm so proud to be here today to talk about all of this, because for me, this is my one life to live. This is what I have been through, and this is what I want others to be able to do. I want others to rise up. We work with so many survivors, and people always say, Kristen, one day, that one day will come where I move out of hiding. That one day will come where I too will be able to rise up. That one day will come where I will no longer have bruises on my face. That one day will come where I am no longer punched. I am no longer kicked. I'm no longer laying on that floor. That one day will come. And for some of us, that one day is today. When I think about survivorship, I think about what it means to be a survivor. This community is so small, and yet it is so big. This community is filled with love. It is filled with non-judgmentalism, if you will. It's filled with non-judgment. I mention non-judgmentism because we have all these isms and supposed tos that we go through, and things that don't really benefit us. And one of the things that my husband talks about in this community is we have all of these supposed tos. We're supposed to do this. We're supposed to do that. All of these rules. And we go by all of these rules that have kept us abused. They've kept us hurt. They've kept us in pain. They've kept us thinking that we don't have this one life to live, that we are in so much despair that we can't rise up. But I'm telling you today that you are not only a phoenix who rises up, but you are someone that can pivot through the wind, that you can pivot through the streams, that you can pivot your entire life, because this is what you have and you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Because let me tell you something. The only person that I ever knew that went through domestic violence at the time was Nicole Brown Simpson, O.J. Simpson's ex-wife. And I didn't really know much about anything. I only knew that case because it was public. And at the time, in 2008, we didn't really have social media. Twitter and Facebook were just starting, but that's really all we had at that moment. And really, the only thing you could do was go to the library, read books that were written about her, really talk to physicians. That's really all that I had. But I started to learn. I started to say, okay, Kristen, you need to learn about yourself. Because while there is this one person that you're learning about, your entire situation is entirely different. So I started to write down all of the things that I wanted to accomplish. And if I was able to live this one life, what are the things I would accomplish? I would write and produce an album. I would create a cosmetics company. I would write social impact music messages to impact the community. And I would become my best authentic self. And I am proud to say today, not only have I achieved those 4 things, but I've achieved so much more. I think when we think about having this one life to live, we often think about accolades. But for me, the biggest thing that I am proud of is being able to survive. I not only survived my ex-husband, but I also forgave him. Because for me, I spent 10 years not forgiving this man. I spent 10 years in a lot of pain. I spent 10 years always going back and thinking about what happened. It was like my mind was on repeat. It was like a tape that was on repeat. And all you want to do is take the tape out of the cassette, right? You want to take it out and you want to get that cassette and, you want to just break it in half and have all the tape inside go like this. That's all you want to do. It feels like your mind is on a washing machine. It's on the spin cycle, and all it's doing is going like this and this and this. And as I thought about all of the things that happened, and I thought about all of the things that I'd been through, I didn't want this one life to be on that spin cycle because it's not healthy. And I spent 10 years living my best life, even though I didn't forgive. And I had a lot of people say to me, well, if you don't forgive him, God is never going to forgive you. If you don't forgive him, all of these things are going to happen. If you don't forgive him, A, B, C, and D is going to happen. And I have to tell you, even though other people said those things to me, I did not believe it. Because believe it or not, whether I forgave or I didn't during that time, I had so many blessings in my life. And do you know why? It's because I was living my authentic self in my authentic life. I had to tune out the noise. I had to say, you know what? No more. No more. I can't listen to anybody but my own voice. I left my church. I left religion. I left all of what it had me under because I met my ex-husband in the church. And there was a lot of pressure to get married for a lot of various reasons. And I did it. You go through the steps, right? You go to high school, you go to college, you get married, you have children, you get the house, the white picket fence. The white picket fence doesn't exist. There is no white picket fence. There is nothing of that. That fence, it keeps you in bondage. That fence keeps you in pain. That fence keeps you in anger. And I had to break down the fence. I had to get my toolbox out. I had to start hitting that fence. I had to stop breaking it down because I knew if I didn't, I wouldn't have this one life. It's one thing to think that you've had 9 lives, but at the end of the day, it's only one. You only have one. And yes, there are culminations, right? You go through this culmination process of all of these things that can lead up to those 9 lives. But at the end of the day, this is all that you have. So I had to start to break down these barriers. I had to start to break down the religiosity. I had to start to break down these isms. I had to start to break down all of the things that were taught to me And you know what? It got me free. It enabled me to say, Kristen, you listen to your own voice. Your own voice is the most powerful voice you will ever have. It is the only thing that you will ever have. And when I wrote Bruised, I said to myself, as a writer, as a songwriter, as a producer, I have to go there. I have to write exactly what it is. I have to take this situation because this is all that I have, and I have to put it into these words. So I started with Bruised. All of my hopes and all of my dreams was slowly taken away. That's how I started Bruised. That's how I started writing. And then I started getting into the religiosity. I started talking about them saying that I was going to go to hell, a place for me that I don't believe exists right now, but it's what I knew back then. And it's what people were telling me back then. And I said, okay, I have to talk about them thinking that I'm lying about this. They actually thought that I lied. I had police reports. I had pictures. I had medical reports about my injuries, and they thought that I lied. And I said, okay. I said, this is what I need to write about because this is all I have. And so when I broke down Bruised and I started writing the choruses and I started writing the verses, I said, okay, I have to just say that I am not going to take it anymore. I absolutely will not take it anymore. And that's exactly what I wrote. I talked about the hypocrites, the born agains, telling me that I was going to go to hell, telling me that I lied. And I said, you hypocrites treated me like dirt. You thought I lied. You told me that I was going to go to hell. And that's what I did. I wrote exactly what my voice was telling me to write. I listened to my own voice. I listened to my inner vortex. And I allowed that vortex to write an album that not only got me free, but that I was wholeheartedly awarded for. This album changed my life. It changed everything that I thought about using my own voice. It taught me everything. It taught me freedom. It taught me to release pain. It taught me to deal with my anger. Because I'm going to tell you something. Being in a situation for 10 years of constant abuse, the anger, the rage, the attitude problems, the lying, the transference of his spirit, all of that I had. I took it all on. And I said, you know what? I can't take this on because this one life that I have is going to be cut so short. I'm going to end up so sick if I don't start to use my own voice, if I don't start to heal, because I don't want to live with the pain. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to lie to my family about where I got these wounds. And I started slowly. I never wanted to speak about it. I only wanted to write music about it. But writing music about it helped me talk about it. It helped me get free. It did something to me. It changed me. It changed the chains that I had surrounding me. It changed that fence that I had surrounding me, that white picket fence that doesn't even exist. I still was able to break it down. I still was able to rise up in a way that I never thought that I could. I never thought or believed at that time when I moved into hiding that I would ever have the life that I have. But once you're able to get free, and once you're able to share your own voice, And once you're able to listen to only you, you will not only be better for it, and you will not only heal, but you'll be able to forgive yourself and to forgive the people that hurt you. I remember someone asking me if I forgave myself. And I said, for what? I have nothing to forgive myself. I didn't do this. But I started thinking about, do I need to forgive myself? And the answer was yes. I had to forgive myself for thinking that I did this, that I caused this, because nothing that you ever do is a reason for abuse. Not once, not twice, not ever. You have this one life, and you did not cause this. You did not decide to be abused. That was on the perpetrator who did this, and that was on entirely somebody else. I want you to know today that your one life counts, that you matter, that you are the phoenix that rises up above all. I wrote a song called Phoenix Rising Up because I am known as the Phoenix. I took my experiences from Bruised and from Misguided Dignity, and I elevated that because I wanted to live in a new life musically, and I wanted survivors to rise up in a way. Phoenix Rising Up gives you a purpose. It gives you a platform, and it takes your pain to purpose in a way where you will become your best self. I am the Phoenix rising up. We will rise. Because I say this in the song, it doesn't matter where you've been, it's how you rise in the end. And that's all that will ever matter in this one life that you have to live. Today, you may feel in pain. You may feel like you're in despair. You may feel like you have no one to talk to. And I am always here to talk to any one of you. You may feel like, you know what, today is the day that I'm going to end it all. Today's the day that I'm just going to walk out on my children. Today's the day that I just can't take it anymore. But I am telling you, you have that intestinal fortitude inside of you to make a change. If I can do it, living in hiding, you can do it. You have the power to rise up. You have the power to rise up from a hospital bed, from that gurney. You have the power. Even though you're wounded physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, you have that power to rise up. You have that. You may be feeling that right now, but I promise you, if you can work through it all, and if you can forgive yourself, and if you can listen to your own voice and go from bruised to being a phoenix who always rises up, you will not only look back on this day, you will not only look back on the past, but you will have a brighter future that allows you to live your dreams, to make new dreams, to be a visionary of whatever and whoever you want to be in this lifetime. You have the power and the capability to be whatever it is that you want to be. You have the power to become whatever you want to become. My softball coach in college, Carolyn Carr, said one time, she said, you never become something. You're always becoming. That has stayed with me since 1996. I thought about those words when I was living in hiding. I thought about those words when I was escaping. I thought about, okay, all I have to do is just be. And it's so ironic because when I met my husband, those are the exact words that he told me. He told me that he came here on this earth to remind me of my greatness. I had to forgive myself for not feeling that I was great. I had to forgive myself for not feeling that I wasn't worthy at times. I know that a lot of people subscribe to a lot of rules. And we have all of these rules that are on us survivors, right? We have to do this. We have to do that. We should be doing this. We should be doing that. We should stay because our mother tells us to stay. We should stay in these marriages and relationships because the church tells us. We should stay because my best friend said, you know what? Oh my gosh, no one's going to believe you. But all of those untruths are not who you are and are not what you are. Those words do not apply to you. Because let me tell you something. You don't need to stay, and you shouldn't stay. You don't deserve the abuse. You don't deserve anything that has happened to you. You have given everything to this life to live. You have given this one life to live. And trust me when I tell you that you are not only a phoenix who rises up, but you are on the eagle's wings. You are riding on eagle's wings. You know why? Because you are forging your own path with your own wings. This one life is what you have. This one life is so powerful. You can survive, you can thrive, and you can dive. You're going to dive into your vision. You're going to dive into the greatest story of your life that you have ever written. This is always about you rising up. It's about you knowing that you did not cause this. It's about knowing how beautiful you are, how smart you are, how tenacious you are, how personable you are. You are beautiful. You have the power. You have the power to rise up. You have this one life to live, so go out and live it. Live your best life, be your own visionary, and listen to your own voice. My name is Kristen Perry Speller. I am honored to be here today as a 14-year survivor for the She Is Me conference during October's National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Go out and live your one life to live and live your best life. I love you. You are a phoenix rising up, and you are bruised no more. Sending all of you love and light and many blessings. So long.